Welcome to this week's episode of the Mustard Seed Leadership Podcast. In today's episode, Brent continues with the series titled Learning to Lead.
Hello everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Mustard Seed Leadership Podcast. If you are new to the podcast, welcome, great to have you along. And don't forget, you can catch up all the past episodes on our webpage at Mustard Seed Leadership Podcast. And you can get notes to download as well, work it together as a team. And it's great to hear feedback about how people have been using it. So we're doing a series right now called Learning to Lead for young leaders or those new to the faith or new to leadership and are really trying to make them practical and helpful. We're on part number 8 and we've already covered 7 different parts, practical things, but I'm going to dive straight in. We've got a big lesson today. And lesson number 8 is that leaders have learned to grow teams by empowering them. This teaching about a leader and his role as a team builder and releasing and empowering a team is absolutely critical. John Maxwell said, 1 is too small a number for greatness. If you want to achieve greatness, if you want your organization to achieve greatness, you're not going to be able to do it alone. If you're going to try and be that glory person who wants to do it all, that control freak who has to have a hand on everything, you're going to limit what God can do in your life. I'd love to see that smashed in our thinking and fall in love with this concept of team, developing, raising, empowering teams and releasing them to go even further. Great leaders are great team builders and leaders. They've realized that they cannot do it all themselves. They've discovered the joy and the beauty of being part of a team. There's a funny old saying which I still believe in so strongly. Very simply, teamwork makes the dream work. I know it's corny, but it's true. Teamwork makes the dream work. If you want to see the dream fulfilled, it's bigger than you. We need to take people with us. So, just as a personal testimony, I remember my first kingdom leadership role as a youth leader, and I had a useless team. They did nothing until I realized it's because I never asked them to do anything. I was frustrated with the team. They were frustrated with me. But then I realized it's not their fault. It's all my fault. I don't know how to lead a team. I had a team but didn't know how to lead it. I didn't organize the team well. I didn't communicate to the team well. I didn't make space for the team to shine. I didn't appreciate the team. And so no wonder the team was frustrated. I'm going to now flip it to someone else's testimony. Let's look at Jesus. Jesus, if there was ever a person who didn't need a team because he can do it all better, it was obviously Jesus. And yet, Jesus was the master team builder. Let me take you through a couple of points. Number 1, the priority of team. Matthew 4:18-20, as Jesus was walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." At once they left their nets and followed him. Jesus could have done it all himself. Instead, he knew his limitation was that he was only going to be on earth physically for 3 years. My point is this: if you're unaware of your limitations, if you have some kind of deluded understanding that you're going to live forever, you're going to be here forever, and that you can do it all better than everyone, then you're too arrogant and you're not going to actually build a team. But when we get a healthy understanding of our own limitations, I'm only one person, I've only got this long a lifetime, and I've only got this many skills. If we realize and have the humility to recognize our own limitations, it releases us to say, well, then I've got to invest in others. If I want to see the organization go beyond me and outlast me, then I've got to be building a team now. Control freaks make bad team leaders. But if you want to see the organization grow, accomplishing more than you could ever do and lasting longer than you, then building a team becomes a top priority. So number 1, Jesus prioritized building a team. Number 2, the choosing of team members. Jesus gathered around him this growing number of, there were fishermen, there were tax collectors, there were Pharisees, there were men, there were women. There was this whole group of people who followed. And yet Jesus knew something. He knew that he could only deeply invest in a handful of people. In fact, there's a quote I live by: the key to the many is to invest in the right few. You can't invest in everyone too much. He had chose and invested in the right few. But who do you choose? Sometimes what we see on the outside of people is different to what's really going on in their heart. So how do we choose the right team members? Well, Jesus' secret was he observed, he looked for people, and he wanted to see if they had an inkling to want to be part of what he was doing. But at the same time, he challenged them. He'd call them. He'd say, "Come follow me," and see their response. But then most importantly, he asked the Father. In fact, here from Luke chapter 6, verse 12 and 13, one of those days Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples. This is all of the big crowd, and he chose 12 of them, whom he designated apostles. Out of the crowd of disciples, he chose the 12 and invested in them deeply. Remember these three: observe, challenge, and pray. Very quickly, number 3, Jesus shows the building of friendship in team. Jesus didn't just choose his friends, but he did build friendship with those that he chose. John 15:15 says, I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I've learned from my Father I have made known to you. He built friendship with them through spending time together, traveling together, communicating. He talked to them. He shared his heart. He opened up his life to them. Through all the meals around tables, he was talking and listening. One of the things I'm absolutely convinced of is that friendship leads to fruitfulness. Don't choose your friends to be your team, but choose your team and build friendship with them, because friendship leads to fruitfulness. Number 4, he empowered the team. Jesus didn't just want a team of servants, he wanted to empower them as leaders. Jesus wanted his team to become like him. And so he deliberately invested in their growth, and he slowly began to build away from himself so that they didn't just depend on him as team leaders, but as leaders, they were fit, ready to go. Matthew 10 verse 1, Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. The goal is not for a team of servants, but the goal is a team of leaders, and we empower them. And then lastly, he released his team. Jesus literally wanted the team to go beyond what he could do as one man. He prepared them, he envisioned them, he commissioned them, and then released them. Remember the Great Commission, Matthew 28:18, Jesus came to his disciples and he said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. The goal is not to keep your team forever, but actually to see them rise up as leaders that you can release into their God-given destiny. So here's the challenge. The biggest difference between small organizations and bigger growing organizations is this understanding of team. Small is normally because there's a control freak, someone who's doing everything. Large organizations, there's leaders have learned the value and power of team and have built away from themselves and released others. Great leaders think team. They're always developing teams. They are fully convinced in the power of team. So your turn now. Let me leave you with 3 quick questions. Number 1, have you ever been part of a great team? What made it special? I want you to think about what was happening in the team that made it feel special. Number 2, if you are a leader, you need a team. Are you currently building a team to grow what you are involved in? Why or why not? What's your excuse for not investing in people around you and building a team? And then number 3, from what we've learned from Jesus' team, what can you do better to develop a better team? Remember this, leaders. This is such a crucial leader. 1 is too small a number for greatness. Let's be great team builders. Let's be part of teams. Let's build friendship in those teams. And let's see our teams go way beyond us. Hope that helps. And once again, may the Lord bless you. And looking forward to next week's lesson. God bless and bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Remember, if you'd like the notes that come along with this episode or any one of our past episodes, you can visit outlookchurch.co.za/mustard seed leadership, where you can see all our past episodes, all the resources and notes that go along with this. Until next time, keep growing.